It's the 2022 Pro Wrestling Recap, brought to you by O Wrestling Podcast and your host, CW. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you and your time. Welcome to our 2022 Wrestling Recap. It's going to be a quick one because it's 10 minutes, but also I didn't watch a ton of wrestling this year. I know, right? But that is part of my 2022 recap. The biggest thing that happened in pro wrestling in my life is that I started watching pro wrestling again. So in 2020, I think the last time I watched anything in pro wrestling. It was the WrestleMania with the Undertaker versus AJ Styles, the kind of cinematic match. I watched some of the other stuff, but it was all a little not great in my opinion. I think my mind was in other places in 2020. And then when they started taking money away from wrestlers who were doing, Twitch and whatever, they had their third party app money rescinded. I was like, okay, I'm out. If you're not going to support the performers who put their body and their mind and their time and their family on the line, and you're just going to start skimming money off the top, regardless of what your contracts say, it was a scummy move to do that to the wrestlers, right? And that on top of all the other nonsense that was going on with Vince and just everything. It was just, I was like, all right, I'm out. I'm done. And I was like, I'm not spending any more money on wrestling. And I think that was about the time that AEW was coming out. And I was burnt out just in general. And I just said, all right, I'm done. So this year, when Vince got ousted for however long that's going to remain, I was like, all right, cool, I'm back in. I'll jump back in on the company if Vince is out, because outside of his just absolute terrible, humane movements, he was a terrible booker. He was treating WWE like his own private play that he just allowed us to watch, instead of a consumer product, which it is. If you're selling ads, it's a consumer product. But he was, again, as everyone in the back would say, it was his playset, right? He would play with toys, and the toys were wrestlers, and the ones he stopped playing with were the ones that, we tend to like. And they were cutting all these people, and I don't know, everything was just bad. But once he got kind of the boot, there was just like this drastic shift in the storytelling and the morale. And I'm all about the professional wrestlers being well taken care of, and that's mentally and physically, having their needs met if they're injured, and also their mental state, right? They have to work in a place where they want to work. They're going to perform better if their work environment is good, and it wasn't good. It was toxic. It was gross. And I had stayed away from wrestling. I would ingest wrestling through a news feed from What Culture Wrestling or Cage Side Seats. I love both those publications, and I was on the outside looking in, right? I understood what was going on through their recaps, right? So once I heard that things were getting better for the wrestlers, at least via news sources, I was like, all right, I'll spend the money. So I actually signed up for Peacock again. I was a network. I had the WWE Network before. I canceled it in 2020. I signed up for Peacock so I can get the wrestling. I could watch Stone Cold Sessions, the Broken Skull Sessions, which is still one of my favorite shows. Stone Cold has he's such a great interviewer. And I say that with the caveat that he's not, but I love the way he does it. He's fine, right? He's fine. But he always asks the funniest questions in the funniest ways. So he'll say something like, I was down there at that territory, same time as you, tell me about it. And he'll like sit back and put his arms up. If you go back and watch, look at every time he tells someone to tell him about it. He goes, tell me about that. Tell me about it. It's perfect. It's the best stuff. And he lets them talk, which is great. But then he always relates it back to himself and what he was doing at the exact same time as them, which I suppose is a way to connect with his interview. You know what? Let me walk back what I said. Stone Cold is a fabulous interviewer. I love it. He's great. I'll watch him interview anybody, especially when he can equate whatever you're doing, whether it's like, I was baking in England, and he's like, same time I was down there in OVW getting the tar kicked out of him by Undertaker. Tell me about it. It's perfect. So I got Peacock. I got back into wrestling. I started watching Raw. I only started watching SmackDown a couple of weeks ago, actually. But I've been enjoying my time with pro wrestling. I forgot how much I missed it. Forgot how much I love it. It is very much an escape. And now that I don't have the same amount of time I had when I was younger to, play video games and kind of veg out, my wind down time on Mondays and Fridays now is watching wrestling. My wife puts the kids to sleep, and I'll sit on the couch and I'll watch Raw, and I'll fall asleep to Raw, or I'll fall asleep to SmackDown. But it's my wind down time. It's mindless fun that I thoroughly enjoy. And I like breaking down the storytelling. I love lore. I love storytelling. I'm a big Destiny 2 fan, the video game, and one of the big reasons I love it is because the story. I love great storytelling, and I'll take it where I can get it. And WWE, one of the best things of 2022 is the fact that they've moved towards longer form storytelling with more nuance, I would say. The era of Vince had some long-term storytelling elements, but they didn't always work. And by always, I mean never. Again, because he would burn storylines quickly in favor of something flashy and new, right? But now with Triple H and his team, I think they're at least trying to draw things out to keep people interested and keep people invested, which is great. And another great thing about 2022 in that same vein is all the returns. There've been some really good returns. There've been some bad storytelling elements in those returns, but more often than not, it's been pretty good. Let's say the Dexter Lumis return is one of my favorites. I don't know if you guys remember, because it's probably been marred by just weeks of just bad stuff with The Miz, but when he returned, it was actually a really odd, really eerie thing. There was stuff happening in the background of backstage segments that no one would acknowledge. Like, it was just kind of background noise. It was really cool. I believe, I don't know if anyone remembers, I believe he was attacking AJ Styles when he first showed up, not The Miz. And I think they kind of swerved the storyline so that, because they knew the OC was coming back, so they kind of pulled AJ out of that. That's my guess. I don't know. But his return was great. Bray's was great. Both of their stories have kind of teetered since, but the returns have been nice and kind of giving these people a second chance on the main roster. Some people, haven't been I wouldn't say taking full advantage, but haven't been booked the best since they've returned. But what can you do? 2022 has been a great year, I think, for WWE in terms of turning it around, getting fans back, getting morale backstage up, and delivering better products. I'm excited for the future of the product. I'm really hoping that the road to WrestleMania, starting in a couple of weeks actually, is going to be great. We're going to have a lot of fun here on O Wrestling Podcast, especially coming up to Royal Rumble. We might do some live video game streams or something, but we're going to have a lot of fun with the Rumble, with the storylines to Road to WrestleMania, and maybe we'll even do some live stuff for the 2-day WrestleMania. I don't know. I want to have fun with wrestling. I want to have fun, right? And I'm happy to be doing this podcast for whoever's listening. Just remember that life is hard, and when you can have fun, take the time, even if it's 10 minutes with me talking about wrestling. Thank you for listening to this quick 2022 recap. Make sure to subscribe on all podcasting platforms. Hit the bell to get notified when new videos go up. I want to thank you for your time and your energy. I appreciate you and everyone you know. And remember, I'm your friend.
I'm your friend, but if I ever see you in the ring, I can beat you. Don't you know? Yeah, yeah, yeah.